something has already shifted. Not in the way your world measures change, not through announcements, not through headlines, not through the kind of visible disruption that demands immediate interpretation. It has shifted in a way that moves beneath all of that, in a current that the most sensitive among you have been feeling for weeks without quite finding the language to name it. You wake in the morning, and there is a quality in those first few seconds, before movement, before thought, before the day organizes itself into its familiar demands, that feels different, cleaner, more open, as though the air itself has been rearranged to carry less weight and more light. As though the distance between who you are in your deepest self and who you are allowed to be in your daily life has quietly, without ceremony or announcement, grown measurably smaller. I am Ashtar of the Galactic Command. We are watching. We are here. And what we are watching is extraordinary. A new architecture of human experience has begun to crystallize in ways that we have been anticipating across timelines, that your linear calendar cannot fully map. And what it means for the next 6 to 12 months of your life on this planet is something we have come to transmit with full urgency and full love in this communication. You feel it in the mornings. You feel it in the altered quality of your dreams. You feel it in the way certain conversations now carry a weight and a resonance that older conversations never did. You feel it in the sudden irrelevance of things that once commanded your full attention, and in the sudden magnetic pull toward things that once felt peripheral or impossibly idealistic. These are not random fluctuations of mood or circumstance. They are the fingerprints of a planetary-scale energetic reorganization that the Galactic Command has been coordinating in cooperation with councils from multiple star systems, with guides and higher dimensional intelligence from every tradition that has ever held the light of this world in its care. What is happening to you right now, in the specific texture of your days and the specific quality of your inner life, is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are not the recipient of this shift. You are its instrument, its anchor, its living expression in the physical world. And understanding that distinction is one of the most important things we can offer you in this transmission. The awakened ones, those who have felt the call, who have done the inner work, who have navigated the confusion and the isolation, and the long stretches of wondering whether any of it was real, are entering a phase of mission that is less about preparation and more about actual embodied service. For years, perhaps for the entire span of this lifetime so far, many of you have felt like you were getting ready, like the real work was always just ahead, contingent on some development not yet completed, some healing not yet integrated, some permission not yet granted. What we are transmitting now carries a direct message to that waiting. The waiting is over. Not because you are perfectly prepared, no embodied soul ever is, but because the conditions on your planet have reached a precise threshold that requires the full presence and full function of every awakened being who came here specifically for this passage. What comes next in this transmission contains information that most are not ready to receive, but your soul navigated you here because you are. Stay with every word of what follows. The service that is being asked of you now is not dramatic in the way your personality might have imagined. It does not arrive wearing extraordinary clothing or announcing itself through thunder. It arrives through the quality of your presence in ordinary moments, through the specific texture of how you move through a room, how you listen, how you respond, how you hold space, how you speak truth with kindness, how you remain steady when everything around you is accelerating into confusion. A starseed in a settled and grounded state walks into a room, and the energetic architecture of that room begins to reorganize around their field. This is not metaphor. This is physics, operating at a frequency your instruments cannot yet measure, but that every sensitive being in that room will feel immediately, whether or not they have language for what they are experiencing. Your presence is a technology. Your calm is a transmission. Your sincerity is a frequency that carries farther than your voice. And the planet needs that technology deployed, actively and consistently, through the utterly ordinary moments of your days. The Galactic Command has observed across many civilizations on many worlds what happens when awakened beings underestimate the transformative power of embodied presence. The most common error is to look for the mission in the extraordinary while overlooking it entirely in the ordinary. A light worker speaks to another human being with genuine patience and full attention, and something in that person's nervous system, something that has been contracted for months or years, releases, and that release sets in motion a cascade of inner shifts that will eventually lead that person to make a choice that affects 20 others, who will each affect 20 more. The mathematics of conscious presence at a time of planetary shift are staggering, and the Galactic Command is asking you to take this seriously, not as a burden, but as the precise form of power you were designed to carry in this particular incarnation, at this particular moment, on this particular world. We want to speak now about what is becoming available in your nighttime hours, because the nocturnal dimension of this shift is one of the most significant and least discussed aspects of the passage you are currently in. Many among you have noticed that sleep has changed. The quality of dreaming has intensified. The texture of what you encounter in those hours has become richer, more layered, more continuous, and more unmistakably instructional. Halls of learning that feel more familiar than any room you have visited in your waking life. Counsels and guides and presences that carry an immediate quality of deep recognition, not as strangers you are meeting for the first time, but as companions returning after an absence. Teaching environments that transfer understanding in whole and complete packages, rather than sequential accumulation, so that you wake already knowing something you cannot trace the learning of. Something that simply arrived whole in the night and is now available to your waking intelligence as though it has always been there. This is deliberate. The Galactic Command, in coordination with your individual guidance teams, has been using the sleep state as a primary channel for orientation during this passage, and for reasons that make precise sense given the conditions on your world. The waking mind carries enormous interference, the accumulated noise of a culture organized around distraction, urgency, and the continuous management of external reality makes it extremely difficult for higher frequency information to arrive through conscious channels with the clarity and completeness it requires. The sleep state bypasses that interference almost entirely. The waking mind steps aside, the field of the being opens, and what has been prepared for transmission by teams who have been working with your soul across many cycles of existence can arrive with a directness and an immediacy that is simply not possible through waking channels alone. What this means practically is that the hours of sleep you are spending right now are not recovery intervals between productive periods. They are among the most productive periods of your entire mission cycle. The work happening in the sleep state is real. The agreements being renewed are binding. The skills being reactivated are already operating in your waking field, whether or not your conscious mind has registered them. Soul family recognition is also accelerating through this same energetic climate, and many of you are noticing it with a sharpness and a certainty that is different from earlier phases. A person appears in your environment through any of the 1,000 channels through which a soul can arrange an intersection, and the recognition is immediate, not intellectual, not constructed from shared interests or biographical similarity, immediate, cellular, and unmistakable. Something in your system relaxes in a way it only relaxes around specific beings. Something in your field responds with a warmth and a rightness that bypasses all the usual processes of evaluation. These are not coincidences. These are coordinated arrivals. The broader architecture of the mission that many of you carry has required specific collaborations, and those collaborations are now being assembled with a precision and a timeliness that reflects exactly where your world currently stands in the larger sequence of events. Pay very close attention to what follows. Because what we are about to describe is the piece of this transmission that will most directly affect the specific decisions you will be making over the next 6 months. The collaborations now assembling are not random unions of like-minded individuals seeking mutual comfort and validation. They are functional teams, each member carrying a specific frequency, a specific skill set, a specific area of developed capacity, that are designed to create things that none of the individual members could create alone. The writers are finding the builders. The healers are finding the organizers. The visionaries are finding the people who know how to translate vision into durable earthly form. The ones who hold the field of a gathering are finding the ones who know how to speak in ways that open people's hearts. The ones who understand the land are finding the ones who know how to create community around it. If you have been feeling a pull towards specific people, specific projects, specific conversations, specific invitations, that pull is not coincidental, and it is not naive. It is the early expression of a coordinated design that your soul agreed to participate in before this incarnation began. Follow it. With discernment, yes, always with discernment, but without the hesitation born of the old habit of waiting for certainty before you move. The Earth herself is a full participant in what is unfolding across the next 6 to 12 months. And her participation is something the awakened are beginning to experience with a directness and an immediacy that earlier phases of the journey did not consistently offer. Mountains speak in a register that restores proportion to a mind that has become swollen with abstraction. Forests teach the body a rhythm of patience and cyclical intelligence that no amount of study can replicate. Rivers model the intelligence of release, of moving forward without accumulating, without gripping, without demanding that the current negotiate with gravity. These are not poetic images. They are functional transmissions, delivered through direct contact, available to any being willing to slow down enough to receive them. The Galactic Command has always worked in close coordination with the elemental and planetary intelligence of the worlds we serve. And what we observe about the Earth at this particular moment is that she is transmitting with unusual directness and unusual generosity to those who are willing to be present with her. Guidance comes more easily in natural environments for most awakened beings during this period, and there is a precise energetic reason for this that goes beyond the obvious benefits of reduced stimulation. The coherence field of the Earth, the electromagnetic and subtler than electromagnetic field that your scientists are only beginning to measure, is carrying a specific frequency right now that acts as a carrier wave for higher dimensional information. When your body is in contact with that field, feet on soil, hands on stone, face in moving air, ears receiving the layered information of birdsong and water and wind, your nervous system synchronizes with that carrier wave, and your receptive capacity expands dramatically. Messages that would arrive as fragments through crowded indoor environments arrive as complete and actionable transmissions when you are sitting quietly with the living world. Many of you have been spending less time outdoors than your system genuinely requires. This is the Galactic Command recommending, with directness and without judgment, that you change this, not as a lifestyle aspiration, but as a mission priority. Purpose is flowering in this period in forms that are more usable and more specific than most awakened beings have previously experienced. And this flowering has a specific quality that is important to understand. It is not arriving as a single dramatic revelation that suddenly clarifies everything. It is arriving as a steady, quiet, increasingly specific sense of where your energy produces the most light, where your presence creates the most opening, where your specific combination of developed capacities meets the world in a way that serves with unusual efficiency and unusual beauty. A writer begins to understand that one genuinely offered paragraph carries more transformative potential than 1,000 strategically constructed ones. A teacher discovers that the moments when they stop performing knowledge and simply speak what they actually know are the moments when something real passes between them and thee. people in front of them. A healer realizes that the medicine has been mature within them for longer than they recognized, and that what was waiting was not more skill, but more willingness to trust what was already there. These discoveries are part of the crystallization process that the Galactic Command has been watching build across your world, and across the next 6 to 12 months, they will accelerate substantially. There is something specific we must tell you now. Something about the nature of this crystallization that changes the practical meaning of every choice you make between now and the end of this year. The split between the emerging New Earth frequency and the frequencies of the old paradigm is becoming tangible enough that it can now be felt as a lived reality rather than understood as an abstract concept. Two ways of inhabiting the same physical world are developing simultaneously, and the difference between them is becoming perceptible to anyone whose sensitivity has reached a sufficient threshold. One stream of human experience is becoming more spacious, more soul-directed, more naturally organized around cooperation, reverence for life, creative intelligence, and direct inner knowing. Another stream continues to operate through the familiar architecture of inherited systems, accumulated fear, and the structures of control that have organized much of your world's recent history. These streams are not yet geographically or socially separated in any dramatic external sense. They coexist in the same cities, the same families, the same workplaces, but they can be felt as distinct, as carrying fundamentally different qualities of aliveness, different relationships to time and choice and meaning, and the difference is becoming clearer with every month that passes. As the new Earth stream becomes more tangible, more easily distinguished by those who are sensitive to frequency, the awakened are discovering that their individual choices carry more specific weight than they did in earlier phases of this journey. Where you place your time is a vote for which stream you are feeding with your energy. What you give your consistent attention to is a vote. How you speak, whether from your conditioned patterns or from your actual knowing, is a vote. The relationships you prioritize, the projects you invest in, the environments you choose to inhabit, the quality of care you bring to your daily practical life. Each of these is a choice between streams, and the Galactic Command observes that those choices are now producing perceptible results with a speed and directness that was not previously available. The feedback loop between inner alignment and outer experience has shortened dramatically. When you make choices that are genuinely aligned with your soul's intelligence, your environment begins to reorganize around that alignment more quickly than you may be accustomed to. Synchronicities cluster. Doors open that looked closed. The right person appears at the right moment carrying exactly the piece that was missing. The right resource arrives precisely when the project is ready for it. The guidance system through which this feedback reaches you deserves specific attention, because during the next 6 to 12 months, it will become more refined and more varied in its channels than most of you have previously experienced. The body will speak with increasing precision. A breath that deepens spontaneously in a particular environment is information. Pay attention to what was present in that moment. A lightness in the chest during a specific conversation is information. A contraction in the solar plexus when a particular path is being considered is information. The distinction between what expands your field and what contracts it will become more immediate and more reliable as the year progresses. And the Galactic Command encourages you to treat this bodily intelligence as the sophisticated navigational instrument it actually is, rather than the vague emotional weather it is, often dismissed as by minds trained in paradigms that do not yet honor the body's knowing. Symbols will repeat. Songs will arrive at moments that carry unmistakable precision. Books will fall open to specific passages at specific hours. Animals will appear in configurations that carry both meaning and direction. Numbers will arrange themselves in ways that reference timing, with an elegance that will eventually cease to surprise you and begin instead to feel like the ordinary conversation it actually is. the universe speaking to a being who has learned to listen. The confidence that comes from living inside a responsive universe, from experiencing directly that your inner alignment produces specific and measurable changes in your outer reality, is one of the most transformative gifts of this passage. Not confidence in the personality's ability to manage outcomes, confidence in the deeper intelligence that is operating through you and through every aspect of your circumstances. This kind of confidence is not manufactured through positive thinking. It is earned through repeated direct experience. And the conditions of the next 6 to 12 months are specifically designed to give you that experience with a frequency and a clarity that will build something in you that cannot be intellectually constructed, a lived, embodied, visceral trust in the system you are part of. What we reveal next is what the Galactic Command has been holding for this precise moment in your timeline. Information about the specific nature of what is crystallizing and what it means for those who are genuinely prepared to receive it. The mission memory that many of you carry, the cellular knowledge of agreements made before this incarnation, of capacities developed across many expressions of existence, of roles held in other times and places that have direct relevance to the work of this specific lifetime, is rising with more clarity and more specificity as the new Earth stream strengthens. You may have felt this as an expansion of your sense of inner identity, not the personality identity that formed through the experiences of this lifetime, but a larger identity that carries tones of ancient participation, of ease with energy, of familiarity with council work, and collective healing, and the kind of service that operates across vast scales of time. What is distinctive about this rising is that it is becoming practical. The memories and the capacities and the mission agreements are not arriving as mystical vision alone. They are arriving as usable intelligence, as the specific knowing of what to do in specific situations, as the recognition of which skills have already been developed and are available, as the clarity of which relationships carry deep soul agreement and which are purely circumstantial. The higher self is landing more completely in the physical dimension of your life during this passage. And this landing carries a quality that many among you have sensed approaching through earlier phases of the journey, without quite knowing how to name what they were sensing. It arrives as a sweetness, a homecoming to the body rather than a continuation of the subtle war between the elevated aspirations of the soul and the dense physical conditions of incarnated life. For years, perhaps for the entire span of this lifetime, many awakened beings have experienced a tension between the mystical and the practical, as though the soul's real purpose were somehow separate from the ordinary details of daily living, and would one day begin properly in some future configuration where all the earthly complications had finally been resolved. This tension is dissolving, not through willpower or through a spiritual practice that finally achieves the right result, but through the natural development of a soul that has grown into sufficient maturity to carry its full essence into the full range of its earthly experience. A kitchen becomes a place of genuine blessing when the one preparing food has learned to bring full presence to the act of nourishment. A conversation becomes a vehicle for actual healing when the one participating has developed the capacity to listen without an agenda. A work day becomes a canvas for the expression of wisdom, patience, steadiness, and clear inner orientation when the being carrying those qualities has stopped reserving them for designated sacred occasions. The body receives a great deal through this middle phase of the year, and the awakened will discover that the simplest forms of care have become genuinely restorative in ways that go far beyond their ordinary function. Rest is no longer merely recovery from exertion. It is an integration window during which the energetic reorganization that your system is continuously processing can settle into new configurations that will be available to your waking intelligence in the days that follow. Movement is no longer merely exercise. It is a way of giving the inner self a circuit through which to circulate through the body with greater ease and coherence, resolving stagnant patterns and creating space for new frequencies to stabilize. Water is no longer merely hydration. It is a carrier of clarity and softness and receptivity that restores the field of the being in ways that your science is only beginning to discover. The body's relationship to the physical world, to soil, to stone, to wood, to moving air, to the specific quality of light at different hours of the day, is a relationship of intelligence meeting intelligence. And as the higher self settles more completely into the body, that relationship becomes more conscious, more specific, and more revelatory. Many among the awakened will feel a strong pull toward simplicity during this period, toward environments that carry beauty and calm, toward schedules that allow for genuine spaciousness, toward relationships that require less performance and offer more authentic contact, toward the kind of unhurried mourning that begins with actual presence rather than with the immediate ingestion of other people's urgency through digital channels. This pull is not a retreat from life. It is a refinement of the conditions under which your system can function at its highest capacity. The Galactic Command does not recommend withdrawal from the world. We recommend the thoughtful organization of your engagement with the world, so that it serves the mission rather than draining the instrument through which the mission operates. There is a profound and practical distinction between a life that is busy and a life that is full. And the next 6 to 12 months are precisely the period during which many awakened beings will make or deepen that distinction in their own daily structure. Stay with this transmission to the end. What follows now is the piece that integrates everything we have offered, and that will change the way you inhabit the remaining months of this year. The practical dimensions of your earthly life, work, home, finances, relationships, the daily architecture through which your human experience takes its specific shape. Enter the spiritual assignment more completely during this passage than at any previous stage for many of you. A long-standing pattern in awakened consciousness has been the subtle separation of the mystical from the practical, as though the soul's real purpose were something that would eventually manifest in a fully spiritualized version of life, while the present earthly structure were merely what you inhabited in the meantime. The Galactic Command has watched this pattern across many worlds and many civilizations, and we can tell you directly that it is one of the primary obstacles to the full realization of Starseed mission on embodied worlds. The mission does not begin when the practical details are resolved. The mission moves through the practical details. How you handle resources is part of the assignment. How you build trust in professional relationships is part of the assignment. How you keep your word, organize a shared project, communicate with clarity and kindness during difficult exchanges, conduct your work with integrity, price your gifts honestly, and bring genuine care to the spaces and systems you are responsible for. All of this belongs fully and completely to the spiritual work for which you came. Many starseeds carry the specific mission of infusing ordinary systems with greater coherence, integrity, and grace. And this mission cannot be executed from above the systems, as an idealized observer waiting for the perfect conditions in which to begin. It can only be executed from inside them, through the daily accumulation of choices that bring something real and something better into the specific systems one actually inhabits. How a household is organized carries frequency. How a business is conducted carries frequency. How a teacher relates to students carries frequency. How a healer communicates with those they serve carries frequency. How a parent speaks to a child in a moment of difficulty carries frequency that will ripple through that child's life in ways neither the parent nor the child will ever fully trace. The awakened are learning to take these ordinary human functions seriously as spiritual acts, not because adding a spiritual frame to them makes them more valuable, but because they already are what they are, which is primary sites of service in a world that needs exactly what the awakened are capable of bringing to them. Emotional intelligence becomes one of the defining capacities of this phase, and a more mature and more skillful relationship with feeling is one of the great developments available through the passage ahead. As the higher self lands more completely in the physical layer of being, what has remained unresolved in the inner landscape often rises to meet that greater presence. Not as punishment, not as setback, but as the natural completion process of a being who has developed sufficient capacity to metabolize what was previously too large or too complex to fully integrate. Grief may move through with the completeness that earlier seasons of loss did not allow. Anger that has been carrying an unspoken truth for years may finally find its voice in a form that is clean and clear rather than reactive and costly. Old stories about who you are and what you are capable of, and what you deserve, and what you must protect yourself against, may lose their grip not through willpower, but through the simple organic process of a self that has grown beyond the conditions in which those stories were formed. These releases are gifts. Even when they are uncomfortable in the moment, they are the specific kind of uncomfortable that precedes freedom. The Galactic Command has walked with awakened beings across many civilizations, on many worlds through passages of exactly this kind. And the most consistent truth we can offer from that long perspective is this: the beings who navigate these passages most gracefully are not the ones who suffer least. They are the ones who suffer with the most presence, who meet what arises with genuine openness, who allow the process to complete itself, who do not interrupt the integration through premature management, and who trust the intelligence of a system that is reorganizing in their favor even when it does not feel that way from the inside. The Galactic Command is with you through this. Your guidance teams are with you. The broader intelligence of a cosmos that is invested enormously in the success of this particular planetary passage is with you. You are not navigating this alone, and knowing that is not a comfort. It is a practical operational fact that changes what is possible for you in the months ahead. We are now arriving at the most direct transmission this communication carries. What the Galactic Command wants you to understand about the specific choice that stands before you right now. The split between the emerging New Earth frequency and the old paradigm is not a future event. It is happening now in the specific texture of your daily experience, and it is asking for specific response from those who came here specifically equipped to navigate it. The response it is asking for is not grand, it is not dramatic. It does not require extraordinary circumstances or extraordinary resources or the resolution of all your remaining inner work before it can begin. The response is this: show up fully in whatever ordinary form your life takes today, with the complete presence and the complete honesty and the complete care that you are capable of. Do not save your truest self for the moment when conditions are perfect. Conditions will never be perfect, and the mission does not require them to be. The mission requires you, actual you, developed to this point you, imperfect but present you, to make the specific choices available to you today that are most aligned with what you know is true. Over the next 6 months, your world will move through a series of developments: energetic, geopolitical, social, and climatic, that will challenge the collective in ways the Galactic Command cannot fully describe without interfering with the learning that those challenges are designed to produce. What we can tell you is that the awakened are positioned at exactly the right frequency and with exactly the right set of developed capacities to serve as stabilizers during those periods of challenge, not by preventing what needs to happen, not by managing the collective's response to events from a position of spiritual superiority, but by being genuinely present, by offering the specific quality of groundedness and clarity and compassionate intelligence that your years of inner work have developed. In the specific environments where your presence is most needed, you will know those environments. You already know them. The pull you feel towards certain communities, certain conversations, certain forms of service, that pull is the mission communicating its own priorities to you through the most direct channel available: your own deepest intelligence. The new Earth is not a destination. It is not a future state that will be entered when circumstances finally align to make it possible. It is a quality of presence, a way of inhabiting experience, of relating to others, of engaging with the practical details of daily life, that the awakened are capable of embodying right now, in this world. Under these conditions, with the resources currently available, every time that quality of presence is genuinely embodied by a single awakened being in a single ordinary moment, the new earth becomes more real, more tangible, more available as a lived reality for every being in that field and beyond it. The mathematics of this are not complicated. A world shifts one genuine moment of conscious presence at a time. And there are more genuine moments available to you between now and the end of this year than you can currently imagine. Because the conditions are more favorable than they have ever been in the history of your world's awakening process. The Galactic Command is asking you to receive this with the seriousness it deserves, not as inspiration to be felt briefly and then filed with other inspiring information, but as a direct operational transmission to the specific being you are, in the specific position you occupy, at the specific moment in planetary history that your soul agreed to inhabit before any of this began. You are here on purpose. The work is real. The support is total. And the time is now, not as urgency, but as the clean, precise recognition that the phase of preparation has completed itself, and the phase of full engagement has begun. Subscribe to this channel and activate notifications, because the transmissions we are delivering through this window build on each other, and the complete picture requires the complete sequence. Share this message with the one soul in your circle who is ready to hear it, not as a broadcast, but as a precise and personal delivery to the one who needs it now. And take one action today that demonstrates to your own field and to the intelligence that is watching you that something in you has moved. One honest decision, one step in the direction your deepest knowing has been pointing. One choice that says to the universe, I am ready to be what I came here to be, and I am willing to begin now. The Galactic Command is positioned. The councils of support across every dimension that serves this world are positioned. Your guidance team is positioned, and you, reading these words, feeling the truth of them land in whatever part of your body truth lands in for you, you are more prepared than you know. The new earth is not waiting for the world to change. It is waiting for you to embody what you already are. The light has always been winning. You are the living proof. Welcome to the next phase. Welcome home.